Sure, no. That's it. Okay. Page 195. So we were saying yesterday that in the conflict between what Rebbe wants to explain, the conflict between the Yetzer Tov, the Yetzer Hara, he compares these to two judges who are sitting on a panel, and the decision of the court is going to go according to the majority. Well, if you have two people, you can never have a majority. So the majority, we need a third judge. The third judge is Hashem, and Hashem is going to side with the Yetzer Tov in the case of the Beinoni. So then why is he not a tzaddik? Page 195. Because me'achar shahara shebachol hasmoli b'Beinoni hu b'tokvei kotodose, because it's as strong and powerful as ever. It hasn't weakened, even though he's been struggling with it for however many years since his bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah. It has not become diminished. It'll say elsewhere, on the contrary, over the years of self-indulgence, the person has indulged himself in the desires of the Yetzer Hara, it became stronger. And what are these desires? Nothing terrible, just enjoying yourself with a good night's sleep and 3 good meals a day and warm clothing in the winter. These are not the factors that lead to Yiras Shamayim, to the fear of God. What does lead to the fear of God? Not doing things for the sake of one's comfort. Doesn't mean you have to be a masochist and punish yourself. On the contrary, that's not what Torah wants either, because then you won't be able to serve Hashem with joy. And the temple in Yerushalayim was destroyed only because the Jews did not serve Hashem with joy. Not because they didn't serve Hashem. They did serve Hashem, but there was no joy. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning.
You're eating chametz, you know that. Now you have the power to eat chametz and not be seduced by its desire. Neither has the Yetzer Hara become diminished so that it should be like of no consequence whatsoever compared to the strength of the Yetzer Tov. No, that's a tzaddik. A tzaddik has completely relegated his Yetzer Hara to like being under arrest. I can't do anything. On the contrary, in the Beinoni, the Yetzer Hara is as strong as ever, and maybe even stronger. So then why isn't he a wicked person? Next paragraph, page 195, the bottom. Rak she'ein le shelitu memshala. The Yetzer Hara is alive and well, kicking away, but it never gets the upper hand. Lispashat be'evrei haguf, to spread its influence throughout the limbs of the body, so that the thoughts will be Yetzer Hara thoughts, and the words that one speaks will be Yetzer Hara words, and the things that you do will be Yetzer Hara actions. Then you're in captured territory. Then you've been captured. When I was a kid, we used to play a game called Capture the Flag. Maybe some of you played that game at summer camp. That if you're in the other, you have to penetrate into the territory of the other side. And if any of the defenders there touch you, sometimes we had to have rags in our belt. If they pulled the rag out of your belt, then you were captured, you were frozen until someone could free you. So that's what happens. The Russia becomes captured by the forces of the other team, which is the Yetzer Hara. And he's stuck there until you need someone else to help you get free. So how is it that the Beinoni doesn't get captured? Page 196, turn the page, 196. Mipnei shakadosh baruch hu oimei liyamin evyan. The Eibishter is standing there by the right side of the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, the good judge. But Oizer, he helps the person that he should not be captured. Umeir, how does he help? Because he shines with his light, which is a holy light, the light of truth. This world is very confused. Think about American politics. Think about the war that's going on now in the what do you call it? It's not Far East. It's not Middle East. Between Russia and Ukraine, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Everything is very confused. What are you supposed to think? What are you supposed to do? So therefore, what the Eibishter gives a person, he gives him light. With light, you can see where you are. When the light is shining, there's no confusion. And he shines on the godly soul. And this enables the godly soul of the poor person. Evyan is a poor person, so that he should not be captured and become a servant, a slave, a prisoner of the Yetzer Hara, doing what the Yetzer Hara is dictating to him to do. Then he's a Russia. And the Beinoni is never a Russia. You get it? The Beinoni is a Beinoni. He's not a Russia, but he's not a tzaddik either. His Yetzer Tov is not strong enough that the Yetzer Hara should be eliminated. The Yetzer Hara is not eliminated, but it is strong enough that he can withstand the arguments of the Yetzer Hara, and the Eibishter helps that he shouldn't give in. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Question. Oh, Samantha. Roman, like in Romania. Romania. Page 196, in the middle. Second Hebrew lines. Therefore, the Beinoni, it says in the first chapter, now we're explaining this question from the first chapter. Why is, there's Tova. Good morning, Tova. Tova Razel. You know what a razel is?
Rose.
A rose. A rose by any other name is a rose. So it says there, in the name of Rabbah, that he considered himself Karasha. And the Rebbe is Medayak, that is to say, he pays close attention to every letter. He doesn't say that Rabbah was a Russia. Remember, we had a problem with that. If Russia is such a big tzaddik like the Rebbe himself, how could he say, if the Rebbe is a Russia, then what are we? We're even worse than Rishayim, than wicked people. And if the Rebbe is a Russia, who is a tzaddik? If the Rebbe is not a tzaddik, who is a tzaddik? And if there's no tzaddik, how can the world exist? The world exists on the shoulders of the tzaddik. Like a very graphic case that we established was Joseph, Yosef, the son of Yaakov, was a tzaddik. He sustained the whole world. He fed the whole world for 2 years during 2 years of famine. He fed everybody personally. So the tzaddik sustains, gives sustenance to the whole world. Well, this person is not a tzaddik, but he's not wicked either. That's the Beinoni, the one in the middle. So therefore, Rabbah said he was Karasha, he was like a Rasha. Well, Abaya, his colleague, went nuts when he heard him say that. Because if you're a Rasha, he said, if you are a Rasha, you don't leave any room for anybody else to exist. Because then there's no tzaddik in the world at all. And the world cannot continue to exist. So therefore, the Rebbe's Medayik, no, he didn't say he was a Rasha. He said he was like a Rasha. Ka, the word ka means like, ka Rasha. And this is the answer to that question. How could the Rabbah, who was a consummate tzaddik, one of the greatest tzaddikim of all time, say that he was wicked? And the Rebbe explains it because he doesn't say he was wicked. He says he was like a wicked person. And therefore, now he refers back again to what we learned in the first page of chapter 1. Even if everybody in the whole world says that you are a tzaddik, you should be in your own eyes karasha, like a wicked person, not a wicked person, but like a wicked person. The bottom of page 196, that's how a person should consider himself. He should consider that he is a Beinoni. A Beinoni is like a Rasha, but he's not a Rasha. The Beinoni we said yesterday, and we said in chapter 12, the beginning, this is chapter 13 now, the beginning of chapter 12, the Beinoni says, the Alter Rebbe says, the Beinoni never does a sin, never did a sin, never will do a sin. But it's a struggle. He's constantly struggling. The tzaddik doesn't have that struggle. You should not believe what the world is saying, that you're such a big tzaddik. Because in the case of the tzaddik, the evil has become nullified. And if not nullified and out of existence, if not converted to good, at least it is totally incapacitated. It's like he's in chains and in prison, and he cannot do anything, cannot get out, and cannot express himself in a tzaddik. So the tzaddik is totally only good. He only thinks good thoughts. He only says good things. He only does good things. So therefore, we pay attention to every little thing that a tzaddik does is an expression of holiness. That if God were a human being, this is what God would say. Whoa, did you hear that? I just dropped a bomb.
Can you repeat the bomb?
If God were were a human being, this is what he would say. A prophet. We know that there were prophets in Israel. It's hard to believe, but there were. I mean, Rabbi Majeska is a very holy person, but is he a prophet? A prophet is a person who becomes like disembodied. He's here a physical person, and he says words that are the words of God, and they get written down, and we take them so seriously because they are the words of God. That's what it means, a prophet, that a God speaks through the throat, through the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, or Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah, or Isaiah, or any of the prophets. David HaMelech, the words of Tehillim are the words of God. They're not just poems created by a warrior king. These are the words of God. That's a prophet. He attains such a high level of holiness in his life that he's connected to Hashem. Hashem can actually express himself completely through this person. who becomes a prophet. So that is the complete tzaddik. He is only good. Everything he does is an expression of godliness. So therefore, we pay attention to the little things that a tzaddik does, because they are also an expression of holiness. And sometimes you wonder, what do we learn from them? But you can learn from everything. You can learn from everything. I said to you yesterday, I'll repeat it again. A guy asked me at the Verbrengen, the Achron Shal Pesach Verbrengen, he said to me, he was a boy from Israel. And he said to me, were you here at the Moshiach Suda when the Rebbe was here? I said, yes. He says, what did you see? What did you learn? I said, you probably want me to tell you about something exciting like the Rebbe did. Maybe he stood up and he got everybody dancing. He said, the Moshiach Suda, we're going to dance with Moshiach. And then I saw this one time. The Rebbe said, Moshiach Suda, Moshiach is going to come and we're going to dance together with Moshiach. And the Rebbe stood up and started dancing. And everybody stood up and was dancing. But I didn't tell him that. I said, I saw, you know what I saw? You know what I learned from the Rebbe? I've told you this so many times. That at the end of the Verbrengen, the Rebbe took a siddur and said a bracha achreina in a siddur. And that is an instruction, just like the Rebbe tells us to go out on a Friday afternoon and distribute candles to women and put on tefillin with the men and give tzedakah with them. What's the difference? These are things that the Rebbe is showing us and teaching us what to do. The Rebbe Maharash, whose birthday is coming up in another week, when we get next week, when we're counting Tiferes, so the third day of the week of Tiferes is the birthday of the Rebbe Shmuel, Rebbe Maharash. And he said to a student, when one of the students was graduating, he didn't have graduations, didn't have a graduation ceremony. One of the students was leaving, maybe was getting married, was going out into the world. And he said to him, Rebbe, what do I take from here? And he said, you should know that you have to be a teacher, because people are always looking at you and they're learning from you, from whatever. And that's what we learned on page 1, the first entry in the page, chapter 1 of the Tanya. Even if the whole world tells you that you are the greatest tzaddik in the whole world, you don't believe them. Don't you believe them? You should consider yourself like a Rasha. How can you consider yourself like a Rasha? He's going to explain that a Beinani is struggling with his Yetzer Hara. Only as long as he's doing something holy, the Yetzer Hara is nullified. The Yetzer Hara is inactive. Like you can't think two things at the same time. You can't drink 2 cups at the same time. You can only drink 1 cup at a time. So as long as he's doing a mitzvah, so he's not doing something that would be against what Hashem wants. And so Rabbah could think that he was a Beinani because he was learning Torah the whole time. We learned about it on the first page of the Tanya. His mouth never stopped saying words of Torah. So he was constantly saying words of Torah, thinking words of Torah. But he considered himself that if he would stop, we learned this also in page 1, if he would stop, even for a little bit, the Yetzer Hara, the flames of love in his heart would die down, and the Yetzer Hara would come charging back. So therefore, a person like Rabbah considers himself like a Rasha, not a Rasha mamish, but like a Rasha. Because if he would stop doing something holy, then he could possibly become a Rasha. The only thing is he never stopped. He never stopped. So therefore, 196 at the bottom, a person should consider himself like a Beinani, and not to believe what the world says, this battle, that the evil in your heart has become nullified. Lagabe hatoiv, it's been overwhelmed by the toiv. That's a tzaddik. And the tzaddik, the evil in the heart, is like it's in Sing Sing prison. It can't do anything. Shazom madregas a tzaddik. That's what a tzaddik is. And the Beinoni is not on such an exalted level. The world may see that he is on such an exalted level, but in his own heart, in his own mind, he should, not with a false humility, this is what the Torah requires of him, that he should think that if he would stop for a second, if he would interrupt his connection with Hashem through his thoughts, through his words, through his deeds, then the Yetzer Hara could come charging back, and he would become a Rasha. Only he doesn't let it happen. So therefore, even if the whole world says that you are the tzaddik of our generation, in your own eyes, you should be not wicked, but like a wicked person. Why should he not be wicked in his own eyes? Chapter 1, we learned that in the very first lines of the Tanya. Because if a person thinks he's wicked, Sarah Abigail, what's going to happen? If a person is going to think that he's, what's going to happen? Actually wicked. If a person, it says you should think that you're like a wicked person. What would happen if he thought that he was a wicked person? What's the difference? Exactly. He'll be sad, he'll be depressed. And there's nothing worse than being depressed. The Rebbe never allowed anybody to be depressed. The Rebbe suffered more than people imagine. He suffered for the whole Jewish people, that's one thing, but in his own personal life, he saw his father being arrested, being sent off to a terrible exile, going through terrible suffering, and eventually passing away because of what they did to him. What could be worse than that? Watching helplessly as your own father is being tortured to death. And when he was a child, there were wars, and there were refugees, Jewish refugees, streaming into Yekaterinoslav, where his parents lived. And he and his mother and father were taking care of them, hundreds and hundreds of people. And there were pogroms when they were hiding, and the little babies were crying. The Rebbe was a little child. He was like 4 years old. He'd walk around, shushing up the children, playing with them quietly so that they wouldn't cry, so that they wouldn't be discovered, so they wouldn't get shot, all of them. And all the people in the world who have problems would come to the Rebbe with their problems. The Rebbe used to complain and say, people give me their problems, and when the problems get better, they don't let me know. Nobody comes with their good news, only their bad news. But despite all that, the Rebbe never allowed people to be sad. A cup isn't half empty. You didn't lose half your fortune. You saved half your fortune. Your cup isn't half full, half empty. It's half full. He looked at, I just heard yesterday, my wife was listening to something on the YouTube that somebody was saying about the Rebbe. They had this unique ability. Most people look at somebody else who has a problem and they think negatively about this person because of his or her problem. You know, let's say a person has a problem that they have an uncontrollable desire to steal. Can happen in civilized society. I know a person who was constantly, his wife was a kleptomaniac. That means they steal. And he was constantly going to the stores and paying for the things, quietly paying for things that his wife was stealing. So you might look at that and say, wow, well, a wicked person. No, Rebbe didn't look at each to see what are their talents, what are their capabilities, what can they do that would elevate them, that would access for them the talents that they have, and encourage them and not allow them to relax. to challenge them to do more and to do more. One thing about the Rebbe, the Rebbe used to wait till the last minute in a lot of cases. Like they're going to make a parade for Lag BaOmer. And a lot of work would go into making this parade. When would the Rebbe tell people to start making plans, renting all the equipment and designing the idea for the float and for that they were going to make? He wouldn't tell them in February so they'd make a committee and they'd work on it and they get the thing all planned out and done in advance. No. But maybe 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks maximum before the Lag BaOmer parade, and especially 2 weeks before, he would talk about it. And so everybody would have to work day and night. He never liked that. He liked that people should work day and night on a holy project, not just do it comfortably. Because then you're working hard. He encouraged everybody to maximize the talents that they have and draw on them. And he said that this person who was speaking said the Rebbe had this unique ability to see in every person the preciousness of who they are and what they are, and to bring it out in them, to draw it out. So he never, even though he suffered greatly in his own personal life, and there are a lot of personal things that were extremely, extremely troublesome, but the Rebbe never allowed it to get the better of him. On the contrary, the more trouble there was, the more he demanded goodness to offset the trouble. Very positive, extremely positive attitude towards life. A person should take the view, here at page 197 now, a person should be like a Rasha, and should it be to him, he should think that the essence of the evil inclination is strong as ever, but takvoi as is still mightily b'chalal hasmoli in the left side of his heart, ketodosei, just like it was since the day he was born. V'lei chala v'halach, never went away, never got weakened, mi'uma, not even in a little bit. V'adaram, on the contrary, nischazek yeser v'hemshech hasman, on the contrary, over the years, the Yetzer Hara became even stronger. That's what a person should look on himself. Oh, if I let down my guard for a second, the Yetzer Hara now is much stronger than it was when I was younger. Because I've used it a lot. I've indulged myself a lot, according to the suggestions of the Yetzer Hara. By eating and shtiyah, by drinking. In Yoni Eilam Hazen, indulging myself in things. Remember what I said to you about fasting? That instead of fasting, a person should just leave over a little bit on the plate. What if you don't leave over a little bit in the plate? Because I'm hungry. I remember reading a memoir about an uncle of the Rebbe, a brother of the Rebbe's father, stayed in someone's house, and they took note. He never finished everything on his plate. In my house, my mother would always say, finish what's on your plate. Think of those poor starving people in Armenia. Finish what's on your plate. This person never exactly finished what was on his plate and never asked for more. Famous line in Charles Dickens' novel, please, sir, may I have some more? Never asked for more. Because that's indulging the Yetzer Hara and not fasting, because you need your strength to serve God and to be happy, but you don't have to spoil yourself. Because when you spoil yourself, that pushes away godliness. Then you're serving your desires and you're not serving Hashem. Page 198, moving right along. Okay, this finishes the whole topic. So what about a person who really has achieved a lot? He's a very high level person in the service of Hashem. Can we not say about him, why can we not say about him that he is a tzaddik? Why should he consider himself also like a Rasha? That's what we're going to say. Just a few lines here. Ve'af misha, even somebody who sits and learns Torah day and night, that's his whole desire. Ein zu haichacha, this is not a proof that the Yetzer Hara has been dislodged from its place in the left side of the heart, but it could be that the essence of the Yetzer Hara is still also at full strength, just like we said about the Beinani, B'chol HaSmoli. So therefore, even a person like this who looks so much like a righteous person should indulge himself to think that he's righteous, but he should think that he knows the truth. We know the truth, that he says to himself, I know the truth, that in a second I could become a Rasha, but I have to constantly be on my guard. Rak, so then, and here comes a very, very important concept. There's a difference between the essence of what you are and the way you behave. They say you are what you eat, you are what you say. It says in the Haggadah, the wise person, what does he say? The wicked person, what does he say? So we say that, yes, what a person says, that's who he is on a certain level. But in the essence of what a person is, there's a difference between the essence of a person, because the essence of a person may be that he's a Beinani. The essence of the person may be he achieved the level of a tzaddik, but his behavior is only like the behavior of a tzaddik. The Beinani, the essence of the person is not, he's not a tzaddik. He's saying here quite clearly, the Beinani, the essence of the Beinani is that the Yetzer Hara is still alive and well, stronger than ever. By a tzaddik, you cannot say that. The tzaddik, the essence of the person has become changed. It's become converted totally to good. But the essence of the person, no, is not. However, since the Beinani is in control of himself, the garments of the soul, remember what the garments of the soul are? You remember that term? Garments of the soul, that's the clothing we wear. So the clothing that your soul requires is what you do and what you say and what you, in the garments of your soul, you could be like a tzaddik. In the essence of the soul, you could be like a Rasha. Or the garment, the soul, these garments tainted. Here he says, the middle of page 198, the garments of the soul, which are thought, speech, and deed, shall nefesh habahamis, of the animal soul, physical being, in his mouth, or Hashem shenas shlita umshala l'moich ala alev, because Hashem, there's Hashem. This is the idea of Hasid, mind must dominate over the heart. Everything that we want to do has to come under the inspection and the approval of the Yetzer Tov. Otherwise, in the life of a Beinani. And that's called Moyer Shalit al Halev. The heart rules over the mind rules over the heart. And that's why we're created as human beings to walk on 2 feet. That our mind is higher than the heart, and whatever is in control of the high ground has an advantage. Remember the story I told you about Moshe Meisels, the chassid of the Alter Rebbe, who was a spy, spying on Napoleon. And when Napoleon confronted him and challenged him and said, "You are a spy," and put his hand on his feet, and asked him, how did you control yourself? He says, because that's the first thing we learned from the Alter Rebbe, that the mind has to control the heart. Thank you very much. That's what we got to work on. Next time you get so upset and you feel like you're ready to explode, just remember, your mind has to control your heart. But how can you remember that?
You need to use your mind.
In the heat of there is that you have to prepare. Like you remember the example I gave you of the Australian wrestler, the champion wrestler. He was a Russian kid. His parents moved from Russia to Australia, and he was wild. So his father gave him to a wrestling coach to train him. So from when he was young, he was constantly learning wrestling. What does it mean to wrestle? It means when a person grabs a hold of you and puts you in a headlock, or puts you in an arm lock, or wraps his legs around you and squeezes with all his might, you break out of it before he can do anything. You break the hold, and you do it thousands and thousands of times, over and over and over, like a dancer. We had a dancer in our class for a couple of years, Esther Bela, and she knew that you have to make a move over and over and over and over again until you know your body knows how to do it automatically. Like learning to speak, like anything. Practice makes perfect. So in order not to lose yourself, and in order not that the Yetzer Hara should never actually manifest itself in the way you think, the way you speak, the way you do, you have to practice and practice and practice, so that you take care of it. As soon as it raises its ugly head, you take care of it. Like the person came to New York and said he was a tourist from Kentucky or from Iowa. He came to New York and he met us, was looking around. How do I find my way? And he saw a lady on the street. She looked like she understood. Good morning, Mushka. And so he asked her, how do I get to Carnegie Hall where the concerts take place? She looked at him and she said, practice. Anybody has to make a bracha achrona, will probably surely make a bracha achrona. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, let me know if my expectation. Yeah, you become so cute. No, it is. Still got cute with the alternative. No, you need the alternative. Sarah Crown Black. Sarah Crown Bye.
Thank you very much.